Previously on Amazing Fantasy Football, our heroes discussed the state of the union for the AFC. In the starting and conclusion, they discussed the state of the NFC. Stay tuned for more Amazing Fantasy Football.
And we're back with the NFC this time. We're talking about the state of the NFC. That would be the National Football Conference, or whatever the NFC stands for.
That's exactly what it stands for.
Not for coconuts. And that one really went off the rails real quick. Josh is getting tired, and that means that we need to get going here. We are here to talk about the state of the NFC, and of course, we're gonna, as we mentioned in part one of this two-part episode here, that we go by half-point scoring, and we presume that players are not going to get injured, with some exceptions, but for the most part, yeah. They have to have a pretty long history for us to assume they're not going to assuming they're going to get injured, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You're, oh boy, what's that guy? You're John Browns, if you will, which we didn't mention in the news segment before, but John Brown got cut by the Oakland Raiders, or Las Vegas Raiders. So yeah, he's no longer part of that team, which whatever. You weren't drafted him anyways.
He's been hanging on by a thread for about a year and a half, probably.
Yeah, I just what could have been with John Brown, you know?
For sure. He had no favors done for him in terms of sickle cell anemia, so.
Yep, and hamstring and blah blah blah. So we started out with the AFC, we're going to start off with the NFC North here. That of course starts out alphabetically with the Chicago Bears. Andy Dalton, he's your week one starter, and he is the starter for the Bears as of right now. Should you consider drafting him week one to be your week one starter for your fantasy team? Not against the Rams. No, sir. Not against that defense whatsoever. Mm-hmm. But let's move along to David Montgomery here. Last season, he was the number 4 overall running back. Supposedly, he looks faster. Supposedly. I'm just not buying that a 24-year-old person can increase their speed in any significant way. I mean, I don't think so. If he was 19, yeah, sure, whatever. Maybe 20, maybe 21. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he probably dropped some weight and whatever. But to really significantly increase his speed to the point where David Montgomery wasn't really that fast to begin with. So I don't think that he's a track star now. Don't care. Tariq Cohen, it appears that Tariq Cohen is currently listed as out and may not be able to go week one. I'm not positive that increases Monty's week one value, because the Bears also brought in Damian Williams to help spell Monty and to be a good insurance policy for in case Monty goes down. It could be more of a timeshare than we're currently thinking. Damian Williams is a very competent, do-it-all running back. He's, like I said, a do-it-all but master of none sort of guy. Allen Robinson, on the other hand, is a guy that Chris and I both love. He is both of our wide receiver 9, according to our ranks. And I think last season, Allen Robinson has shown that he is virtually quarterback proof. He had Mitchell Trubisky, he had Nick Foles as his quarterback. And he still finished as the wide receiver 11 on the season.
Yeah.
The only reason that he doesn't finish as a top 12 or even a top 15 wide receiver is because of Darnell Mooney. And Darnell Mooney, as anyone who has ever followed this show in the last 9 months, as we are sitting here at September 2nd, knows that I have been all over Darnell Mooney. And even before the end of last season, just watching, because I live in Iowa, I have to watch a lot of Bears games because, whatever.
Close to Chicago, yeah.
Darnell Mooney I think the Bears really think that they caught lightning in a bottle with Mooney by getting him as a 6th round draft pick in 2020. He is currently going as the wide receiver 46 off the board at the 10:05. He could really be a real good sleeper here. Marquise Goodwin, he is the wide receiver 3 for the Bears, which isn't bad, but he has been often injured and has bounced around over several teams over the past few years. I'm just staying away from Goodwin. On to Cole Kmet. Oh boy. this is the guy that I went through, and I went through 3 different websites. According to ESPN.com, ChicagoBears.com, and OurLads.com, Cole Kmet is listed as the number 1 tight end for the Chicago Bears above Jimmy Graham. Woo!
Should be,
I love Cole Kmet this season. He is going free. You can easily pick him up. Maybe even not after week 1. You can get him for free, maybe as like a $5 bid or even like a $2 bid after week 1. I think unless he explodes in week 1, he's going to be cheap,
which we don't expect because it's Dalton. Which we don't expect because it's Dalton versus the Rams.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Don't draft Cole Kmet, but if you're tight end that you took a flyer on late in your draft doesn't pan out, get him super cheap and stash him on your bench.
I would say a quick interlude, real quick, 2 seconds, is just to remind the folks at home, we probably beat it to death a little bit, but the Troutman versus Kmet thing, like, remember a week or 2 ago, I was like, I'm more on Kmet now because of the potential of maybe Fields taking over, but also the Troutman negativity,
I'm sorry, I don't know who you're talking about. Who?
Troutman. I'm sorry, my bad.
Oh, Adam Troutman. Okay,
I always butcher that one, Mister Literary. But no, seriously, like Troutman kind of just getting not just negative press, really, not just hype, not just fluff, but like legitimately, Juwan Johnson was in there getting snaps, and he's got a little bit of buzz. So I've kind of flipped him. Doesn't mean I'm reneging on the bet. I'm just saying that yeah, we'll see.
Real quick on to Jimmy Graham. He is probably still going to be involved in short yardage and end zone situations, but I'm thinking that this is Jimmy G's and I'm not talking about Jimmy Garoppolo, but this is Jimmy Graham's final NFL season. He might have one more left, take a league minimum on a roster somewhere. Yeah, I think he's done. I think he's cooked. That Achilles injury really killed him, and this is also why I'm out on Cam Akers long term. Let's move on to the Detroit Lions, though. Jared Goff. He's a guy who we could all be potentially sleeping on. The Lions' offensive line rank is 10th according to PFF. That would be Pro Football Focus going into 2021. 10th. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. If Goff had better weapons, we would all be much higher on him.
Yep.
Think, I don't know.
A couple years ago.
Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. But even then, even more elite weapons than that, But let's move on to the running backs here. DeAndre Swift, he's been dealing with a groin injury, and it sounds like he's in real danger of not being available for week 1. If this is the case, you have to drop him at least a round or 2 due to uncertainty of when he's actually going to be able to play. If Swift can't go, though, Jamal Williams, baby. Jamal Williams.
Mm-hmm.
He's a very capable back, and he was very capable of filling in for Aaron Jones, too. But on to Jamar Jefferson here. I mean, I don't think that people should really ignore the fact that Jamar Jefferson exists. He is the 7th-round pick. Yeah, that's pretty late. But apparently he has caught the eye and made a good impression amongst the coaching staff.
Mm-hmm.
And if Swift's going to be out, he's potentially going to get a time to shine. Potentially, just don't forget the name. Mm-hmm. Let's move on to the wide receivers here. As I mentioned, at some point, Rashad Perriman has been cut by the Lions. And they've cut a lot of wide receivers for a team that was very wide receiver needy. It is boiling down to Tyrell Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and to a much lesser extent, Quintez Cephas, which I love the last name Cephas.
Right.
But I like Quintez Cephas is kind of just a guy, I guess. Maybe he has some fantasy value. I don't think so. But I'm really rising on Tyrell Williams. He does have 1,000-yard season underneath his belt, but at what point do you draft Tyrell Williams? That's kind of up to you and how your draft flows. I would much rather take Amon-Ra St. Brown as the flyer to be the Cooper Kupp, if you will, for the Detroit Lions. On to TJ Hawkinson at the tight end position. Go Hawks, of course. I firmly believe that as long as Hawk stays healthy, he will be the target leader in this offense. He is no
sure.
Kyle Pitts in the sense that he's the unicorn,
No, yeah, he does
but
both. He does both, all things well, I think.
he is the best. He is one of the best all around tight ends to come out in the last couple of years by a lot of what a lot of people have said.
And still an athlete, like still classified as an
Yeah,
absolute athlete.
and he's good at catching as well. Yeah, he had some drops in year one, but now he's entering into his third season, which the third or fourth year for tight ends is usually when they start putting it together if they're going to. Heralding back to last episode when we were talking about in the news segment about the Vikings getting Chris Herndon, he's hitting it year 4. He has been healthy and suspended. So maybe it's really more year 3 for Herndon. It could be a thing. More on that here in a second. Let's move on to the Green Bay Packers. So Aaron Rodgers, he is as most people know, he's the reigning NFL MVP. My biggest concern for Rodgers is the offensive line. You kind of buried it in the news in part 1, but David Bakhtiari, he's going to miss what? At least a game?
At least 3. Yeah, it's IR.
Oh, at least they did put him on short-term IR.
Yeah, let me vet that.
Man, we need to start calling it the short-term injury reserve.
Yeah, because it's beginning of the season stuff. If you get it done before roster cuts, is it? Anyway, whatever they term it, before the regular season starts, it's a short-term IR thing.
No, it's even in the middle of the season. You can still stir someone.
So there's 2 designations now. There's straight up IR, which is like 8 weeks.
And you only get like 1 stir player, though.
So there's 3 weeks and 8 weeks and season ending? Anyway, you're right. We should vet that better. No, I think it's
just 3 weeks. And then there's season long. Oh. Man, I might be wrong. Anyways,
but it was 8 weeks, like a year.
Let's keep rolling here.
We'll update you folks on during the regular season on that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, like that whole subjective versus objective thing that we never actually resolved. You know what happened? I ended up punching a dictionary because of it.
Oh, yeah. He deserved it.
But anyways, back to the Packers offensive line. Losing an all-pro, not all-star, but all-pro center in Corey Linsley to the Chargers can really, really deter a quarterback's offensive production. And David Bakhtiari, who I believe was also all-pro last season as well, him missing the first 3 games, no bueno. So Aaron Rodgers there could be some rough seas ahead for Aaron Rodgers, and maybe potentially Aaron Jones too. He's my RB5. Maybe and Chris is RB6. Maybe we should both lower him a little bit because of that. But it seems to be that, like, if you look at their depth chart, that there are some. They did draft a rookie center, and there's some contingencies in place for Bakhtiari, but I don't know, man. Aaron Jones, he's going to get a boatload of catches. He's great on the ground. My only concern is that A.J. Dillon might vulture some touchdowns, but Aaron Jones is very capable of doing some short yardage work as well.
Speaking of A.J. hasn't got much opportunity.
He has more than you think. I've personally watched it. It will be interesting to see what Dillon's role really is this season. I'm not drafting him. I'm not advocating anyone to draft him other than as a handcuff to Aaron Jones, because I don't really know what else is on the roster other than those 2 guys. If you're really interested in getting Aaron Jones a handcuff, it is Quadzilla, A.J. Dillon.
Amen.
Devontae Adams, he's my wide receiver 1. I believe he's your wide receiver 2. Aaron Rodgers and him, they have a real connection. When you talk about quarterback wide receiver connections, it is like, think Peyton Manning, Marvin Harrison, Peyton Manning, Reggie Wayne, that sort of connection. And in the red zone, Aaron Rodgers is looking for Devontae Adams. I do want to talk about MVS here for a second. That is Marquez Valdez-Scantling. He averages over his career 17.8 yards per reception. The problem with that is that it's only 50.5% catch rate, and averages 5 drops per season. And I know drops can be subjective, but whatever, objective. You insert the proper one there. MVS is going into his 4th season. He's probably not going to turn around, but he does have size. He's 6'4", and he's got speed to do it too. If he could just track the ball and catch that damn ball more or more efficiently, then he could easily be a top 20, maybe not top 24, but easily be more of a top 36 guy. Like think of, who was that guy that was a really great punt
like a high-end
returner, kick
flex.
returner?
I'm sorry, which
Yeah,
returner? Like a high-end flex.
there was a guy that was a real good. He was for the Carolina Panthers recently, more recent. I'm spacing on his name. Anyways, let's keep going down the depth chart here. Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb, no. I've said Carb. Randall Cobb, no. Robert Tunyon, on the other hand, though, he is both mine and Chris's tight end 7. Supposedly Tunyon has.
Okay.
Yeah, both of us. And I've adjusted my ranks and everything, and I did not move Tunyon whatsoever. At least I don't remember doing so. But supposedly Tunyon has looked good this offseason. I would really like him to become less less touchdown dependent and more reception and yards dependent. And hopefully he does this season with kind of still a lack of wide receiver talent there.
Lack of a 2 or 3 at receiver. Yeah.
Yeah, a true 2 or 3.
Yeah. Or pick who it is week to week.
Very lastly here, the Minnesota Vikings. We're of course have to talk about Kirk Cousins, Captain Kirk. This is my new draft day late round QB to target. Captain Kirk Cousins. He is getting the Bengals subpar defense in week 1, and because of this, he is my. I've already said that. But Cousins is going as quarterback 21 off the board. At the 1308. You can get Cousins so late he's practically free, and to be your week 1 quarterback with Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen there, and Dalvin Cook catching the ball in the backfield too. Yeah, it might be more of the Dalvin Cook show, like because the Vikings did run the ball like almost more than any other team last season. But man, at 1308 as
your QB what?
What's that?
He's your QB what? I missed it.
I don't remember. I don't know what he is.
That's fine.
I don't know what he is. It's my quarterback rankings. He is my QB 12 because of it. Because I changed it. I changed it because of this. Because after about like QB 9 or so, I start looking at week 1 matchups, and then I just stream.
Yep, that's exactly why I asked.
Personal philosophy. Let's talk about Dalvin Cook here. He is mine and just about everyone else's number 2 overall pick. Cook's great. The offensive line is supposedly going to be better, if not a little bit improved. And Cousins is just good enough to keep defenses on their toes, especially with those receiving weapons. All that adds up to me being like, I don't know what that's supposed to say. That's all gibberish. That really doesn't make any sense here in my notes. Sorry about that. But let's talk about Alexander Madison here real quick. He is a very capable handcuff to Cook. He doesn't really have a lot of standalone value. He's not like a JD McKissick or like maybe a Tony Pollard or
definitely not like a Jamal Williams.
Yeah, like he's a handcuff, and if you want to handcuff Cook, great. If you have deep benches in your league, great. Get Alexander Madison. Boom. On to Justin Jefferson. Do you remember when people were criticizing the Vikings for having 2 slot receivers and Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson? I do. Those people were wrong. I might have been one of them. I don't remember. I work a lot and also have
when Jefferson was drafted,
done some illegal stuff in my life to really kill some brain cells.
Right? Didn't Jefferson
What's that?
Didn't Jefferson play a ton of slot in college? That's why when he came
at LSU, yes.
And Thielen
Justin Jefferson
just got finished. Though. Yeah. Well, and Thielen is perfectly accomplished on the outside, well enough in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Let's keep moving here. Justin Jefferson, like I said, is legit. He belongs as the wide receiver 7, according to ADP. That even might be a little too low. It just kind of depends. Adam Thielen, he's getting older. He is going as the wide receiver 21 off the board at the 505. He's my receiver 16. He's Chris's 19. Both of those are pretty respectable and at least on par with ADP. Not outrageous.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that his age should let you deter, and especially in a redraft, from drafting Adam Thielen, especially as your wide receiver 2. I mean,
I
at
think
the
they feature him in the
505, he
red
could
zone.
potentially even be your wide receiver 3.
I think they feature him in the red zone still. I think his red zone statistics have been solid
His
the last couple of years.
red zone efficiency has been really good. Let's move along to tight end. Like Chris said in part 1 of this 2-parter, Irv Smith has a knee injury and he is probably going to miss the rest of the season. And Chris Herndon is there, and I'm just not drafting Herndon. He might be a waiver wire darling. I want to see it to believe it. And until he does it, and frankly, drink. It might have to be a couple weeks before I even consider Herndon.
I thought we drank when I said it. This doesn't seem fair.
You have to drink when you say it.
I didn't say it. You said it.
I know. And that's why I said drink, and which was a drink to me, not to you.
Oh, well, I drink anyway. Cheers.
Yeah, well, as you should. Let's move along to the NFC East, home of
me.
Chris's Dallas Rangers.
Yes, so we're going to start in alphabetical order, which is C or D or D or C. It's not the Rangers, it's the Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys. America's team, right? Let's go, folks.
Certainly not Spider-Man's team.
Definitely Spider-Man's team because he hates the Giants. Okay, so let's talk about this. Let's talk about this quarterback. Dak is a full go. Let's just squash all the off-season talk. They were being cautious.
He's going to start week 1.
Yeah, exactly. He will be very close, if not at 100%. He should be a top 5 QB on the field and in fantasy this season. Started every game of his career, except for the ones he was injured in, obviously. Is what I'm saying. He was a starter from day one. So and he didn't miss a game until last year. Not a single game. 69 games and never missed one. Nice. On pace for 36 touchdowns minus the game he was injured last year. If you take his pace, if you take out the game he was injured, it was 36 touchdowns. I forget the math was if you included that game, but he didn't finish it, and he didn't play to the first half anyway. That's it for Dak. Just, draft him where you can. I'm sorry. That's not all I had on him. 0.35 rushing touchdowns per game for his career. That gives you about 5 or 6 rushing touchdowns per year. Even if you want to play devil's advocate and say, like, they're going to dial that back, you're still talking about 3 or 4 rushing touchdowns per year. That's very respectable for what he's putting up through the air. Zeke has been rising up rankings and ADP lately. For actually not even lately, for the past several weeks, steadily. He could pretty much throw last year out the window for a multitude of reasons, most of which is his hurt quarterback and his very hurt offensive line. Yet he still finished as an RB1. He looks to be in great shape and is poised for a huge year, in my opinion. I think where kind of the meat of it lies is trying to decide between the receivers and their ADP this year. Amari or CD, right? CD or Amari. I think long-term the answer is obviously CD. So in redraft, this is a different conversation. But it's a lot closer than people think. I think there's a lot of hype thrown on CD because of the youth movement, because of the big plays and the amazing catches. But I believe Amari has the best year of his career and is the better fantasy wide receiver at the end of the day. And I also believe that these two are kind of half a step above the Rams receivers, although Josh might be a little bit higher on Cup than I, although we're both very high on Cup. Getting on to the tight ends for the tight end for Dallas. Jarwin is tops in my late round tight end group. Volume is really the culprit there. You have to mention Dalton Schultz's name in terms of if they want to run more 2 tight end sets, but let's be honest, they have Michael Gallup on the roster, who I didn't mention the wide receiver portion because I'm kind of staying away because I feel so strongly about Amari and CD. But hey, I think they're more of a 3 wide receiver team than a 2 tight end team. On to the Washington football team. I'm very high on the Washington offense this season, thanks to Fitzmagic. But in terms of drafting Fitzpatrick, my apologies. I like the better late round QB targets, but I do believe he can sport some of these fantasy assets. Antonio Gibson is poised for a breakout year, in my opinion, and should get plenty of looks. both on the ground and through the air. Let's just hope J.D. McKissic doesn't sap too much of that receiving work this season, but he's there. As far as wide receivers, Terry McLaurin, something like that. I butcher it every time, folks. I'm sorry.
There's a U in there.
Yeah, exactly. Is going to be the primary beneficiary of a better, more catchable targets and a willingness to throw down the field, courtesy of Ryan Fitzpatrick. While there's uncertainty surrounding the 2 and 3 wide receiver spots due to Curtis Samuel's injury and an uninspiring Adam Humphries manning the slot. Although we gave an update earlier in the last show about Curtis, Ron Rivera feels pretty confident about Curtis Samuel starting week 1. Logan Thomasley has quietly become an offensive weapon in this league. I would like to edit that note right now. He has not quietly become an offensive weapon anymore because his ADP is getting a little out of hand, last I heard. But I meant quietly in terms of I feel like outside the fantasy realm, it's not talked about much. His target share was amazing last year.
Can I have you? I'm sorry, you cut out there. You were talking about Logan Thomas, and did you not talk about Diami Brown? I think that maybe it's just a name to bring up. He is a rookie. There has been some positive notes about him, not recently, but in camp and everything. Probably won't make the starting roster. Like he won't be a starter, but maybe a name to keep an eye on if production ensues, especially if Curtis Samuel is going to miss.
If Curtis Samuel can't get back, yeah. Although, as we just said, Ron Rivera feels good about that, but yeah, it's not like we're running out there drafting.
Sorry, once again, you cut out there for a second, so I just wanted to clarify.
No, you're good. Keep going. You're good. Moving on to the Giants. Unless he's your third quarterback in Superflex, Danny Dimes is undraftable. Moving on. Let's talk about Saquon. That's a little more relevant, right? Saquon is dropped in ADP and rankings due to his questionable availability in the first 2 weeks of the season. Giants have shown us nothing but the utmost patience with his health, so that worries me a little bit. However, we did just get an update last day or so about them starting to have some optimism about him starting week 1. So that ADP might be moving a little bit, but just really keep that in mind, folks. If you've got a better option to go with, a more reliable option, do it. But otherwise, we'll see where he ends up.
Saquon?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's keep going. I'm gonna do a quick peek on his ADP. Keep going.
There you go. Kenny Golladay has started his Giants career off with hamstring issues, but he should see true number 1 volume. Sterling Shepard could be a steal if Golladay can't go in the first week or so. Evan Ingram was in the late round tight end flyer territory, but now his week 1 status is in question, so he's undraftable as of now. So if you want to go top to bottom in terms of Ingram being questionable, Golladay having hamstring issues, although it looks like he's going to go, we'll see. And of course, Saquon, the elephant in the room. It's a lot of wait and see for me, but I know we all have to draft this week. We all have to. If you haven't drafted already, you're drafting this weekend. So I am.
This is the weekend to draft.
I know. Saquon is that guy that you just have to watch out for. I don't know how you have to keep up with your news. Join our Discord, put your notifications on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter, and let's see if we can figure out what's going on with Saquon right before draft time, because this is huge. Like, I understand I'm down on the quarterback. I understand I'm down on the offensive line, but the volume is going to be there if he's on the field. And he will be eventually. I firmly believe that. We just don't know if it's going to be week 1, 2, or 3. Moving on.
Saquon's ADP right now he's tied with Tyreek Hill at the 111. And I want to make sure that this scoring format is right. This is like,
I saw the same thing earlier. Now that you mention it,
so like even a month ago, it was like Devontae Adams and like right around the mid, like he's at the 107 now, but he was at like the 106, and then Tyreek Hill is at like at the 109,
the second round. Okay, fair.
And now he's at the 111. Stephon Diggs was like at the 202. Like all these receivers kind of crept down for running backs, and I'm just like, I don't know. I think Aaron Jones.
I don't know about for this running back for Saquon, man. I'm scared.
You're scared. I get it.
If you made me draft tonight, I'm not drafting him.
Was that the NFC East?
Nope. I have the Eagles.
All right.
aka the Eagles. Shout
The
out to
Igloos.
Keith. Shout out to Keith, our friend. Hurts could present a good value due to his running ability, but with an ADP of the 811 at QB12, I'm out. It goes back to, what was the other guy we mentioned earlier about QB12, right at that, I think, was it Lawrence maybe? I'm like,
Yeah.
there's no reason I have to take this risk. There is no reason I have to take this risk in most 12 team single quarterback leagues. I'm out. I don't believe in the guy through the air. I don't believe in the way the team has been run in the past couple of years.
He does get the Falcons in week 1, so there's that.
That's fair. That's a good point. The long and short of it is I'm not relying on this Philly team this year other than Miles Sanders and maybe the rookie Devontae Smith in a deep dive here. Sanders is going to have to capture a good snap share and fend off Boston Scott and Kenny Gainwell and return value on his ADP, which is, I think, right around 21 or something, RDP 21 maybe. As I said, Devontae Smith could have some value as the best wide receiver on the team, which isn't saying much if you can get him late. But Hurts has me worried. With Zach Ertz fully bought in, back in town, and said he wants to retire as an Eagle, both Philly tight ends are off the board for me. That
really?
was the NFC East. Yeah.
What would you say? Where do you think Zach Ertz is going in drafts? Just real quick guess. Give me a round.
14th.
Just give me a round, real quick.
14th round.
You are absolutely correct at 1401. At 1401, I will definitely. That's the kind of guy that I'm going to wait on, like completely punt on tight end and get Zach Ertz.
And you have no problem dropping him after week 1.
Exactly. He was free. Yeah. So we're on to the NFC South here. We're going to talk about the Atlanta Falcons. Matt Ryan. What can I say? It's Matt Ryan. He is not a sexy quarterback by any stretch of imagination. I don't know. I don't remember exactly what he looks like. I'm sure he's a fairly good-looking chap, but he doesn't run the ball. He's getting older. He's becoming a very vanilla quarterback as far as fantasy-wise. He's going as the wide receiver 15 off the board, according to ADP. He's probably more of just a week-by-week streamer sort of thing, scenario by scenario, given what the defense is going up against and everything. Excuse me. On to Mike Davis here. As of right now, say what you want about Wayne Gallman, but Mike Davis is really the only fantasy relevant as far as going into drafts that you're really worried about. He's going up. I don't understand why the Falcons kind of decided to punt, for lack of a better term, on the running back position 2 years in a row. They tried the Todd Gurley experiment last year. It didn't work out.
They didn't take a single back, or was Hawkins taken?
It was just 6. Hawkins. Anyways, and that guy was so small and
he got cut.
Yep, and he got cut. Anyways, Mike Davis, he's the starting running back on an NFL offense. He's not going to bring you sexy stats, but as the the running back 2 off the board, maybe go a little bit lower, maybe go a little bit higher. That's about the right range. Calvin Ridley, it's your time to shine, bro. You are the talented Mr. Ridley. You are a little bit smaller back than the prototypical, like Julio Jones style, like Calvin Johnson, like big, fast, tall, wide receivers. But you've proven last year that you can get it done. And once Matt Ryan kind of got away from the Julio safety blanket due to Julio's injuries last season, you really shined. Let's keep it rolling. On to Russell Gage here. I have mentioned a lot of sleepers over the first part, and I will continue to mention some over this one. But Russell Gage could be one of those guys. His ADP is the 1204. That's a perfect sleeper territory. He is the wide receiver 2 for the Atlanta Falcons, which has carried value over the past, decade at least, with Julio or Calvin Ridley or Roddy White. They've and this has all been more or less with Matt Ryan at the helm of this offense. So Russell Gage could really easily be a value here. He'll get his targets. Is he going to do much with them? Hard to say. Olamide Zaccheaus, he just bears worth mentioning because I like saying his name, and he also had a game or two last season outside of injuries that he did do some fantasy relevance. Draft him? No. keep the odd name in mind. Kyle Pitts, the unicorn. He is the legend that is already a legend, even though he hasn't done a single thing in the NFL regular season in his career. He's my tight end 9. He's Chris's tight end 1 in his heart, but really his like tight end 5 as
5 or
of his last
6. Yeah,
update.
we'll see. I think they're
And
already fitting
you were
him for
talking
his
and you were
gold
talking about
jacket.
lowering him, so whatever.
Yeah.
Many expect Pitts to run more on the outside and soak up a lot of Julio's vacated targets, which is, I mean, that's a good, I think it's a little bit of lazy analysis, but it's certainly possible. I'm not quite the believer in Pitts and the mammoth hype surrounding him, mainly because rookie tight ends really don't fare well in the NFL. It's a hard position to transition to. We'll see what happens. I'm not a believer. Chris is. It's probably somewhere in the middle, to be perfectly honest about it. Hayden Hurst, and maybe Chris is actually a little more right than I am. I'm just not willing to spend that kind of draft capital on a rookie tight end. Not at all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's move on to Hayden Hurst just real quick. He is, if the Falcons are like what everyone who thinks they know anything about football, the real football and fantasy, if you look at the tight end or the Falcons roster, starting offensive roster, it looks like they're going to be running that 12 personnel set like we were talking about with the Patriots in the previous episode. And Hayden Hurst is more of that traditional tight end. He did have 88 targets last year. Yeah, some of that was a little bit due to injury, and Matt Ryan does utilize tight ends. He has a very long history of doing so.
For sure.
But I'm just like, and that 88 targets is probably what's going to get next season too. Or in 2021, what is he going to do with them? I don't think it's going to be anything elite. Let's move along to Sam Darnold and his now his Carolina Panthers. He is the quarterback there. He is the captain of the ship in Carolina. The one thing I don't like about Sam Darnold is that the Carolina Panthers offensive line looks extremely shaky. It looks like it could be towards the bottom of the league, if not the bottom of the barrel as far as offensive lines go. That I've seen where supposedly be bad offensive lines turn into good, if not great offensive lines in like the turn of an off season. Hard to say that this is going to happen with the Carolina Panthers. That doesn't bode well for Sam Darnold nor CMC, but CMC, he has done it well without. He has been elite with subpar offensive lines. Even and everyone is thinking, 2019 CMC, like he could have been a league winner for you. He wasn't for me because I went up against blah blah blah. I'm not going to go back into it. But
Lamar.
CMC 80, but if he even achieves 75% or even 80% of what he did in 2019, that's still an elite running back. That is Christian McCaffrey right there for you. His
elite.
Backup is Chuba Hubbard. He's more or less a handcuff. He's like I don't know. He's kind of a poor man's CMC, really.
Speed.
But and he could get some usage. He might have some games where he is fantasy relevant alongside CMC. I don't think he's going to necessarily siphon enough work away from him to make CMC like drop in value, but whatever. Let's move along to these wide receivers here real quick, where 2 out of the 3 of them are returning from last year. Obviously, Curtis, the aforementioned Curtis Samuel that you were just talking about, is not there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Robbie Anderson, he finishes the wide receiver 24 with Teddy Bridgewater. The thing I like about Mr. Anderson here is that he showed me that he's not just I run fast downfield real straight. He can actually run routes, but I'm gonna give the edge to DJ Moore here, who finished 2 spots above him, as we mentioned before. The only reason I'm picking DJ Moore or Robbie Anderson, and it could just be Robbie Anderson because he's familiar with Sam Darnold, is I'm going with talent, and I think DJ Moore is ultimately the more talented guy over Robbie Anderson. Maybe we're splitting hairs here, but if I had to choose, it's DJ Moore. Just real briefly on Terrace Marshall, he was the rookie that the Panthers drafted, and there's been some preseason hype around him. I'm probably staying away from him in drafts, but maybe if Sam Darnold becomes a legit quarterback, he could be an option. Other than that, stay away. I'm going to bounce this to you real quick. What do you think about Dan Arnold, Chris? Tight end for
There's
the
been
Carolina
some.
Panthers.
There's been some D Arnold to Dan Arnold. There's been some Darnold to D Arnold hype. I was up on him a bit a couple years ago in Arizona. A little bit of flashes there. Just with the tight end landscape, lump him in with the other darts you want to throw and see what sticks against the wall. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, according to Fantasy Football Calculator, I'm looking at it literally right now. He's not even going drafted.
I mean, he's free.
I'm still staying away. As tight end dart throws, I'd much rather have Cole Kmet. I'd rather have Hunter Henry, Zach Ertz, your boy Adam Troutman. I mean,
Troutman. Yeah, I'd take him above that for sure. The best thing is wait 2 weeks.
All right, let's go move on to the New Orleans Saints and their freshly minted starting quarterback, Jameis Winston, formerly of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What?
I said, let's go, J-Mo. I'm excited. I'm excited about him being the starting QB. Go ahead.
Probably the right decision to make Jameis the starting quarterback. Sean Payton is going to have to be patient through Jameis Winston's interception games. He's probably going to make those mistakes. But ultimately, I think it's going to be best for Adam Kamara or Adam. Who's Adam Kamara? Alvin Kamara. Does losing a Hall of Fame quarterback like Drew Brees affect Kamara? Of course it does. But I think, and that's just enough to bump Kamara down from the consensus, according to ADP, RB3,
3 or 4,
and down to my RB7, which I think is actually more like the RB8 or somewhere. It's RB6, 7, or 8 now since I've actually written
not
these
ADP.
notes. But yeah. Latavius Murray, he's just I'm not even going to say he's the handcuff. He's just the guy there behind Alvin Kamara on the depth chart. Not really much of a handcuff. Let's move on to these pass catching weapons. Let's just start with Michael Thomas here. He was put on the PUP as of Tuesday, which was a couple days ago. That would have been August 31st, which means he's not going to play in the first 6 weeks. But I'm thinking might be more like week 8 that he actually starts. So you're going to miss him for a long time and draft a player that you're going to actually hold on your bench for 7 weeks. No, don't do that. Do not do that. Let someone else draft Michael Thomas, and then in about week 4, when they drop him, then pick him up and stash him for 3 weeks instead of all 7 weeks. On to Marcus Callaway. He has been the center of a lot of preseason hype. He has looked good with Jameis Winston at the helm. Is he Devontae Adams or is he Zach Sudfeld? In a sense that about like 4 or 5 years ago, Devontae Adams, there was a lot of preseason hype around him. He had been with the Packers for a while.
Yeah.
And then he actually produced. Zach Sudfeld, on the other hand, was a tight end for the Patriots about that same time. Well, no, it was even longer ago than that. And he was just like, Gronk's hurt. Zach Sudfeld's going to be the real thing, blah, blah. Come week 1, didn't happen.
They can make any tight end work type of outlook.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah. All that BS. Marcus Callaway sounds like it could be a real thing. His current ADP is the 1007. Maybe getting a little too rich for me, but and I think honestly, in like a couple of days, when people are doing the majority of their drafts, it might hit the 9th round, and I might be out on him by then. I don't know. We'll see. Just see how your draft goes. If you can get him at 10 or later, go ahead. Click that draft button on Callaway. Anything before then, pass. Deontay Harris, he's small, he's fast, he's a super cut guy. He returns kicks. He reminds me so much of Darren Sproles, only plays at wide receiver instead of the running back. He only had 25 targets last season, so I'm just out on him. Your boy Adam Troutman. No. Troutman. You know, he's not just your preseason sleeper, but he's a lot of people's as well. Yeah. Jameis Winston has certainly utilized tight end when he was in Tampa Bay, but he never made a tight end a focal point of his targets. So there's potential for Troutman to be there. Let's move along to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and stupid Tom Brady. Y'all know my stance on this ass hat. I'm not going to go any further. He's whatever. You know he's good. blah, blah, blah. Let's move on to something a little bit more fantasy relevant, and that is Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette. Is Lenny the week one primary back? Hard to say. He's going as the RB 36 off the board, hit the 801, which is about exactly around behind Ronald Jones, who's the 32nd running back off the board according to the calculator. Mm-hmm. I like Ronald Jones over Leonard Fournette as just sheer talent wise. Mm-hmm. They both kind of do the same thing. Ronald Jones just does a little bit. He's just has a little bit more burst. Fournette has a little bit more power. They both can catch the ball rather well.
I think Jones has got more juice. I think Jones is younger.
Yeah, I'm going Jones. If gun to my head, Jones. Let's move on to Mike Evans. He's a big red zone weapon. Okay, whatever. I believe in the talent of Rod Godwin. I'm sorry. That is Rod Christopher Godwin. My bad.
Great name.
Yeah, Evans trumps Godwin in size, but that's about it. I'm gonna go Godwin. Antonio Brown, I loved him a lot better when he was a mid to late round sleeper for me, but now he's going to the 708, and I liked Brown when he could be like that sneaky like wide receiver that's going to maybe get 1,000 yards, and he was going in like the 9th round or whatever, and you might not be able to hit on every game that he's going to be good, but you'll hit it on a couple of them as just like real, like, you know, especially for a bye week fill-in kind of guy or whatever. Because I think that all three of these guys are actually going to hit 1,000+ receiving yards this season. I just don't know who can do it the most consistently as far as week in and week out production. But I'm going to go with talent, and that's going to be the younger, more talented guy, and that's Chris Godwin. On a Gronk, nope, don't care. He's old, he's big, and that's all he is. That's all I got for the NFC South. Let's move on to the NFC West, where my favorite quarterback in the league right now is currently playing. Let's go talk about that NFC West.
NFC West. Let's lead off with the Arizona Cardinals.
Not where my favorite quarterback plays. But go ahead.
What's that?
Your favorite quarterback, Kyler Murray. Keep going.
Kyler Murray could finish as the quarterback one over all of the others.
It's possible.
It's very possible, despite Josh's hesitancy.
No, I concede. Keep going.
I don't usually draft QBs early, but this kid is due for a historic season through the air and on the ground. Unfortunately, there isn't a clear beneficiary in the RB room for the Cardinals. Chase would be my Chase Edmonds would be my preference, depending on price. Due to his pass catching chops, however, Connor seems to be in line for goal line duties. Nuke Hopkins is a top 3 wide receiver. Enough said. After that, I really liked what I saw out of Rondale Moore in the preseason. It seems he will have packages for him to get the ball in space, but also he was working out of slot very well. People seem to forget that he is a very accomplished actual wide receiver. He is coming out of college. Yep. Yes, a year off, but he's not just a gadget. A lot of volume in this attack, but I'm not sure there's a clear-cut number 2 guy at the wide receiver position. And they do 4 wide receivers a lot more than any other teams in the league, so it's kind of convoluted there.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, for sure.
Did you say that Rondale Moore took a year off?
In college, meaning I don't think his 2020 was terribly productive. Big 10, right? 6 games or something.
Oh, did he opt out?
Yeah, well.
Oh, was he one of those like mid-season opt-outs?
Maybe. Was there such a thing?
Okay, let's keep rolling. Sorry,
yeah, let's keep rolling. You're good. We can vet that some other time.
Huh? Yeah, okay. Yeah. Keep going. Keep going. Let's roll.
No, you're good. I don't have a tight end of consequence to mention for the Cardinals. Am I crazy?
I don't think the Cardinals. I don't think it's in Cliff Kingsbury's kind of thing.
They're going to run 4 wide receivers. It's not the in vogue thing.
The 3 to 4.
They'll run 3 to 4 more than any other, especially 4.
And it's Chase Edmonds maybe like at sometimes like that 4th or even James Conner, you know?
Well, real quick to come back to that 4th person on the field, if you will, depending on obviously 5 offensive linemen and a quarterback, is that they run a hurry up more than like this team most likely will finish with the top volume in the league, period. Passing, running, all of it. Most plays run, period. Because
depends on defense, but yeah.
But that's fine. But also the coaching philosophy coming from college, Cliff Kingsbury. Point is, look for volume there. I don't have a clear-cut number 2 wide receiver to throw out for you there. Hopefully Chase Edmonds gets more of the catches coming out of the backfield.
Right.
Otherwise, keep an eye on Rondale. Let's move on to the Seahawks.
Okay.
Seahawks, another QB I am a immensely huge fan of, but probably won't pay up to draft him. Many expect another Jekyll Hyde season from Russell Wilson. Carroll and the Seattle play callers, have kind of given us a bad taste in our mouth. Let's just move on from that. Chris Carson's value is hard to deny. Even with his faults, basically injury, he's one of a handful of guys that has a sizable snap share that you can almost guarantee he will get, given health.
True.
I think a lot of us are prepared for another big DK season, if not like a secondary breakout from DK Metcalf. We'll see how it plays out, but DK isn't the one you have to worry about. He'll get his. Lockett is the volatile one. It's hard to argue against the detractors. He has been inefficient, but I am holding out hope for a more consistent year from Lockett, given a slightly more consistent passing volume from the coaching staff and Russell Wilson. Gerald Everett at tight end has been getting some buzz and some love from Wilson lately, so he could be a tight end dart throw to target if you absolutely punt on tight end. Let's move on to the 9
real quick.
Absolutely.
Just about the Seahawks and Gerald Everett is that I believe that I don't remember where I saw it, but there was some talk about Russell Wilson saying he's like, I just really love that Gerald Everett is there. Or it was a beat writer. I'm sorry. It was a beat writer that was saying that Russell Wilson has said that he really loves that Gerald Everett is a do-it-all kind of tight end. He can block. He can do this. He does, like, they don't have to sub in and out tight ends or whatever. And I'm like, if you can just have him on the field at all times and just do it, like even just do it like a little chip block,
I think they tried to do that with Disley.
Pass. Gerald Everett might be that third pass catcher,
I think Disley was an underrated pass catcher / athlete.
He's retired though.
I know, that's what I'm getting at is if it weren't for his health, I think he might have been more consistent for them.
All right, let's move on.
Let's move on to the Niners. Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy G is going to and probably should be the guy most, if not all, the season for the Niners at quarterback. I believe in Lance's talent, but hasn't played football in forever. And when he did, it was for North Dakota State. I think we harped on this like back in July a little bit. Like, I understand the hype he's gotten. Quick little interlude. I watched him throw a little accuracy contest into a bucket, for lack of a better term, with, I think it was the Dolphins and the Niners had a scrimmage together, and Lance looked really bad in terms of accuracy. You're talking like, what is his name? Jake Sudfeld, of all names, was throwing, like, won it. And it's just whatever. Zach. I know that doesn't mean anything in fantasy football. Sudfeld. Thank you. Did I say Zach? Whatever I said.
You said Jake.
Thank you. Just whatever. I know that doesn't mean anything with fantasy. I know that doesn't mean anything with real football. Hell, he might even have packages drawn up for him to run the ball. But I think Jimmy G is a Super Bowl quarterback, literally, and you have to give him the benefit of the doubt right now. And he also got hurt that year, so I think he's the guy most of the season, and that is a bit of a far cry from what I said in the beginning of the offseason. The San Fran running backs, that's what we really care about, right? While elusive to figure out, whoever figures out, the guy is given week reward you with a very reliable RB1. Mostert is the guy, but keep your eye on Trey Sermon. We mentioned earlier in this big episode that Wayne Gallman got cut, so that just is opening up that lane for Trey Sermon to either have a minor week-to-week role or a major role if, God forbid, something happens to Mostert, which has happened before. I'm not sure how well we can expect the 49ers wide receivers to perform in a run-heavy attack with an all-pro tight end commanding targets. But there's hope for Brandon Ayuk can take a step forward with an actual offseason, because remember, he was a rookie last year, under his belt, and the stability of the quarterback situation. Debo will have fantasy-relevant games for sure, probably blow-up games, but he tends to be unreliable due to his health and his usage. Again, run-heavy attack. Let's go on to the tight end. Do you want to interrupt?
Nope, I just said true. That's all.
Kittle
Keep
is
going.
amazing, just a little pricey in relation to other tight ends going after him. If he slips to the 4th round, I'm all over it. I'm just not over this late second, this mid-third stuff.
Yeah.
There's too much value to be had in your Tanyans, depending on how you feel about Kyle Pitts, et cetera, et cetera. That's my 49ers spiel. Let's move on to another very interesting team in this division. I just love this division this year. So the Rams, Stafford.
Yeah.
Matthew Stafford has over 500 passing attempts and 4,000 passing yards in every one of his, quote, healthy seasons of his career, except for one.
Last year.
He's not coming in here to hand the ball off to Darrell Henderson, Sony Michel, or Xavier Jones. They're going to throw. The Akers injury just reinforces that for McVay. And I want to enforce that McVay name. He is one of let's say several coaches in the league that is going to adjust his personnel. If you have Matthew Stafford on your roster at this point in his career, you're not going to defer to a gosh darn Darrell Henderson. Let me continue. Darrell Henderson is still slotted as the, quote, guy in LA. We've had growing concerns when you factor in the Rams know what they had in Henderson a year ago and still chose to take a running back in the 2nd round, then turn around after that after the Akers injury and bring in Sony Michel. Xavier Jones, 72 college catches. That is nothing to sneeze at in terms of the other hype that we've heard about Xavier Jones coming from the coaching staff.
How many years?
3 or 4.
3?
I feel like he's a bit of an older, like senior rookie coming in.
I think he's just a guy, but okay.
He might be 23, 24. Good 3 or 4 years in college. Plus, it was SMU.
He's a David Johnson. I gotcha.
Yeah. So let's move on to the receivers. Pick your guy here. Both should have a great year. I am talking Kupp. I'm taking Kupp for 3 reasons. He's cheaper. He is a slot/possession guy, so probably more targets and receptions. And
You're a fan of 2 girls, 1 cup.
Yeah, I know. And is the greater red zone threat. Look at Robert Woods. Yes, I understand you have to maybe omit the Buffalo years, but look at Robert Woods' touchdown production. He is not a red zone guy. I'm not saying it's a size thing because Kupp is probably even slighter of build, but Kupp has a nose for the end zone.
They're about the same size, though, aren't they?
That's exactly what I'm saying. They're either the same size, if not defer to Kupp being smaller. But Kupp has a better nose for the end zone. He has been more of a red zone threat throughout his career. I'm going to defer to the guy that has the slot role, the possession receiver role, and particularly in a full PPR, but still a half PPR. And I'm also going to defer to the guy that's the better red zone threat. And lastly, the cheaper guy. He's still cheaper.
2 inches taller.
Kupp is 2
2 inches taller.
Okay, so more like a 6'1" guy, 6'2".
6'2".
Thank you.
According to Wikipedia.
Wow. Okay, that's significant. But again, yeah, absolutely, better red zone guy. Probably more targets in the slot, and cheaper. Is the big one. Let's go on to Tyler Higbee. Tyler Higbee has definitely flashed in the past. 2019, he had 69 nice receptions, 734 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And he ended up the tight end 8 in fantasy in only 15 games. Stafford hasn't been a, quote, tight end guy, but at the end of the 9th, maybe even the double-digit rounds, if Higbee falls a little bit, as a tight end 12 in ADP, he's hard to pass up there considering the opportunity he has in this particular offense.
Can we circle back to Stafford not being a tight end guy and the fact that Eric Ebron in his hands of stone? He literally has hands that are molded out of stone.
And he was a first-round pick, Josh. That is incredibly frustrating from a QB and a personnel
and Hawkinson, TJ Hawkinson was the same way, but he improved last year.
He only got a year or two. Or a year and a half, right? With Hawkinson. Am I crazy? Or was it a solid 3 or 4 years with Hawkinson and Stafford? 2. That's what I thought. And I
2019
felt like that,
and 2020.
Wasn't there some time missed by either one of them too? Like it might have a
lot in 2019, I think. They did not coincide together.
I think it might have been more than a year and a half than it was 2 years. But yes,
it was because Stafford missed the back half of 2019. Anyways, I just man,
That's why I think
Matthew
Higbee
Stafford
is.
so much.
That's why I think Higbee is. And he was with Gerald
Matthew
Everett.
Stafford
in
is
LA.
probably the best. And if he's going behind Justin Herbert, I think it's a shame because Matthew Stafford is probably the best, like prototypical stand in the pocket quarterback.
His volume, his attempts, his yards, elite.
It's ridiculous, but I mean,
he's played with some subpar personnel. He's played with some awful offensive
Exactly.
lines and no freaking running game, for goodness sakes. So I expect better things. I think we both do.
but I mean, Stafford, he can do it every level of the passing offense. He can do it short. He can do it middle. He can do it long.
And again, the coaching staff, man. I believe in this coaching staff. I think we all should.
Yeah. He's what Sean McVay wants. I think the only thing that Sean McVay wants out of Matthew Stafford more is just a little bit more mobility, but that's just whatever. I don't know, man.
And the money
let's move on to some
invested
factor
on
fantasy. Let's keep moving. Let's move.
And
let's
real
move,
quick,
let's move.
the money they've invested on the defensive side of the ball actually does play into fantasy, despite.
I'm gonna start. Wait.
Let's go.
Allen Robinson finishes as a top 7 wide receiver.
Ooh.
I chose his number specifically. It's within the top 10 factor fantasy. Okay,
It's
so in
close.
2020, as we know
he's
Allen
never
Robinson's
finished as a
quarterback
wide receiver
situation.
7. I'll
He
go out on a limb and
finishes.
say that.
Wait, I'm not done. Allen Robinson finished as wide receiver 12 and was only 17.9 points away from finishing as the 17th
7
or the 7th place.
7. Yeah.
A wide receiver who was DK Metcalf. Now, if you give Allen Robinson a little bit more efficiency with a couple more touchdowns, literally 2 more touchdowns and a few more receptions and about like 20 more yards, makes him wide receiver 7. I'm going to go fact. And I believe that Andy Dalton is good enough. And Justin Fields, if you believe that Justin Fields is good enough to do it, I believe that they're both more talented than Mitchell Trubisky and Nick Foles.
Well, for sure more than Trubisky and Foles, for sure, yeah. I see what you're getting at. Give him X amount of more stats, given his...
I'm literally talking about like 2 more touchdowns,
of which guy's in there.
5 more catches, more yards, boom, done.
I like the regardless of which QB is in angle. I really do, because I do believe in Dalton a bit. However, most of my Robinson or any Chicago offensive weapon love is based on Fields taking over eventually.
We know you like Foles. Let's keep rolling.
Fields,
sorry,
not
we're
Foles.
running along.
Fields, you said Foles. I do not love Fields.
I know. I meant Fields. My bad. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I think I'm up next.
I did mean Fields.
I think I'm up
What do you
next.
got?
Oh, I'm way up here on the AFC where we got to scroll down. My apologies. I went back up.
Hit me with your best shot.
I got it. Let's go. My faves, right? Let's go. My fave. Factor fantasy. Dak wins the MVP. Let's just go off the fantasy rails here. Is that too much binary? Is that too much 1 or 0? It probably is.
No, it's fine. No, I'm thinking. I'm trying to give you a quick answer, and I'm just like,
I know.
I'm going to say
it makes it a good question. I guess it makes it a reasonable question.
I'm going to say fantasy, but it's certainly within the realm of possibility.
Yeah. You know what? That verbally, that's
I'm trying to think of like who would actually be it, and
Mahomes is every single season.
That's probably
really
there.
maybe even Aaron Rodgers right now. Maybe even
I was gonna say Josh Allen.
Fire away.
I have a couple of bold takes here, and some of them are a little off kilter. And you know about this one, but Dalvin Cook finishes as the number 5 overall fantasy scorer in 2021. I have like
Dalvin Cook. I'm sorry, Dalvin Cook 5 or higher overall fantasy, regardless of position.
And
right?
I have stats to pull this for this one.
Well, I mean, so let me think this through out loud for 2 seconds. He's the RB2. He's the 102. Yeah, fact.
Okay, so here's why you could potentially be wrong. In 2017, Todd Gurley was the number 1 overall scorer at 351 points. Le'Veon Bell was a 4th overall scorer at 299 0.1 fantasy points. Those are the top 2 running backs
in the
that
same season. Oh wow! Okay.
Same season, 2017, and the other 2 in between, and number 2 and number 3 overall were quarterbacks. These are going to all be quarterbacks or not running
backs. That's why I
second
guessed my answer at the last second. Go ahead.
Here's 2018. Todd Gurley, number 3 at 352.6, and Saquon Barkley at number 5 at 340.3. Everything in between, everything that I did mention there in the top 5 were also quarterbacks. 2019, of course, the CMC season versus Lamar Jackson season. CMC was a number 2 overall score with 413.
Really? He was second to Lamar that
points.
Year? Wow.
The number 2 at 413. Here's 2020 fantasy. Though. Alvin Kamara finished 11th overall with 336.3 points. Derrick Henry was 12th at 323. I'm going fantasy because even if you gave Dalvin Cook 350 points in 2018, he was the number 2. If you gave him 350 points in 2019, he was number 3. In 2020, he would have tied Tom Brady as the number 8, exact, like dead nuts tie.
Yeah.
Tom Brady is the number 8 overall scorer in fantasy. I'm saying fantasy because it's just a quarterback league.
Go ahead. Oh, no, I'm up next. My apologies. Oh, okay. I've got factor fantasy for the Rams because we love talking Rams.
I love the Rams. I love Matthew Stafford so much.
I would
dare his children if I could.
Right. Darrell Henderson finishes with more carries than Damian Harris. Factor fantasy.
Damian Harris ended up with like 150 something maybe last season.
The pro stats are so similar in like two seasons.
Darrell Henderson was like
about a year.
Like $160 last year, but Harris missed like 6 games.
That's fair. I saw the same thing when I looked it up. Yep.
Well, okay, so tell it to me one more time before I give you my answer.
Factor fantasy, Darrell Henderson finishes with more carries than Damian Harris.
Carries. On the ground, rushes.
Carries. Because we know Damian Harris
fantasy.
Is not. Okay, I agree. I think
I just wanted to qualify that it was not overall touches. It was.
I worry that me and you should quell some of our Darrell Henderson. I'm sorry, some of our Damian Harris love.
I was giving him a little bit more than last season.
I'm still thinking he probably finishes with more carries.
Going to be in there.
Yeah, I think Darrell Henderson is just more like a 55-45 guy. Well, more like a 55% guy or 60 at best. Not an
effective guy, but a guy. Here's a quick one, a real quick one. Dan Arnold finishes as a tight end 1 this season. So a top 12 tight end. Factor fantasy.
Given how I feel about a Jarwin or a Higbee or a Komet, I'm going to go fantasy.
I'm going fantasy and not even close.
Yep. Yeah, I don't think he. Yeah, I like Arnold as a sleeper.
I mean, he could easily hit like 13, and he could be like 13 and miss it by like a half a point.
He's not going to be worth the risk.
I'm still going fantasy.
Yeah.
You got another one?
Got another one? No, I think I'm out.
Okay, here's one that you might. Here's one you might enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Adam Troutman or Adam Troutman. Actually, there's no U in his name if you ever actually look it up. Or I'm sorry, no, there's no O in his name. It's a Troutman with 2 A's. Adam Troutman finishes with more fantasy points than his teammate, wide receiver Traquan Smith. Factor fantasy.
You got to consider Callaway. You got to consider Jawan Johnson, I believe was his last name. Fact.
Michael Thomas will come back at some point.
I don't know if he ever plays for the Saints again, but we'll see. Yeah, I'm going to go fact.
I am also going fact. I don't really think that Traquan Smith is all that, nor is he a bag of chips. So I'm going Troutman on this one.
Yeah,
here's another one. Russell Gage finishes inside so he's a top 30 wide receiver, a top 30 fantasy wide receiver this season. Factor fantasy.
Fact.
I am also going fact. He finished as wide receiver 37 last year with Julio playing 7 or 8 games. I can't remember which. I think it's 7 games.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore, and this was like Julio was playing more in the beginning of the season than the later half of the season. So yeah, Russell Gage, top 30 wide receiver. Oh, he kind of alluded that to earlier. Another one, but let's bounce back. This one is outside of injury. Jamal Williams finishes with more points, fantasy points, than DeAndre Swift.
I knew you were going to say Swift. At this point, I have to go fantasy. I'm gonna assume Swift is healthy enough in after the first week or two to take on because the talent is there, basically.
Yeah, I'm gonna assume that even if the DeAndre Swift misses week 1, that he's still gonna outperform Jamal Williams. Assuming that Jamal Williams plays all 16 games and Swift plays like 15, or I'm sorry, all 17, and Swift plays all like 16 after that.
It would have to take the coaching staff to do a 180, basically. Like, okay,
we're gonna end this on a doozy.
Jamal 70%.
We're gonna end this on a doozy, and let's cut out here. Marquez Valdez-Scantling scores 160 plus fantasy points this season. That's 160 or more. This one's difficult because you don't know what 160 fantasy points really is in context. So I
feel like I have a little bit of a insight there to 160. It's a pretty respectable wide receiver. I'm going to say just out of the 20, just right around 24. I don't think he can do that. I think it's going to be a Tanyan, it's going to be Devontae Adams, and an Aaron Jones show.
So let me tell you what 160 fantasy points gave you as the wide receiver 31 last season. 31, you said 26,
I was
I
off
believe?
by a good 7 slots, yep.
That's not bad, though. That's not a bad guess.
Mm-hmm.
MVS, he finished with 120.8 half PPR points. I know that was a little redundant, and I'll laugh at myself for being so foolish to say so.
But that was well within 48.
So jumping from 120.8 points to 160, that's a big jump. That's a big jump.
30 to 40 fantasy points.
Considering he's never done it, even with Devontae Adams missing time last season or in the year before that too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm calling it fantasy. I mean, I'm calling it boldly fantasy, but I'm saying it could happen. I'm giving it like a 33%, 35% chance that it could happen if MVS can really soften up those hands and catch some balls and learn how to track that ball better. Like I said earlier in this part of this mega episode, this is it's a possibility. He just needs to put it all together. I just don't know if he can going into year 4, I believe I said already.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not unheard of.
If there's another option in that offense, I think he's the one. I mean, they're not going to throw it to Dylan, and we've already given.
Dude, if MVS could really put it together, and like I saw it last season when Aaron Rodgers had his more or less the peak of his game, is that there was times where he was looking downfield for MVS, and he was going away from him just because he was unsure
correct me if I'm wrong,
MVS could actually catch that ball that he was throwing to him.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Was it not a playoff run or a late season plus playoff run? I feel like in the first couple rounds of the playoffs, he was catching those deep bombs, and it was a unguardable offense at one point. I think it was MVS was making those plays.
Because like I said before, he's 6'4". I don't know what his 40 times is, but he's fast. He's so fast. He just doesn't have hands or field vision or moves back to shake anyone off other than being fast. Let's call it a show, man.
Let's call it a show.
Let's go it. So as we stated before, on Sundays we stream. We do injury news updates. We do lineup questions. If you have any lineup questions, we're here to answer your lineup questions. I mean, I always have friends that need lineup questions. Chris pretends that he has friends and they need lineup questions, but really for his lineup. So whereas mine are legit friends, legit. But we're also here. We stream. We have a good time. We have some coffee. We talk. There might be some PG-13 dirty jokes that are thrown around there, but not
definitely a more laid back atmosphere. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a non-structured sort of thing. The only thing structured is the injury part. You know, it's just like, hey, the so and so is not going to play.
We get
or
that out of the way early.
Doesn't look like he's going to play. Join our Discord channel. Chris has been super solid about putting injury news up into the news, and it's not just him, but I mean to a much lesser extent, it's myself, and also every other person part of the community has also been throwing it in there too, which is super awesome. I really love it that everyone else is also helping contribute to that sort of thing.
RWC shout out, yep.
Yeah, so join us. If you want to, if we always include the link into the show notes and everything, check it out. If you're checking us out in YouTube format, of course, you can always check us out in podcast format, wherever podcasts are available.
Links
literally wherever podcasts are available. Whether it's you're getting it from iTunes, or you're getting it from Spotify or Google Podcasts, or you're getting it from a Spalding behind your local craft store. You know, Spalding's got your AFFB podcast format there. We don't encourage you to get it from Spalding, but if you want to get it from Spalding, he's got you covered. So if you are checking out our podcast via Spalding's cloak of podcasts, you should really check us out on YouTube and not go to Spalding.
Coming in.
And you can check us out on our YouTube channel. Just search for Amazing Fantasy Football on YouTube. We do Sunday morning streams like I already talked about. Doo-doo. I'm getting tired. And
he said doo-doo.
Immortal thing is really
like, share, and subscribe, folks. We're going to have amazing fantasy advice all season long. Weekly content. Sign up.
Yes. And until next time, folks, which we will be doing a live stream of our Friends of Benefits, which is our listener league.
Our Discord league. Yeah, our listener league. Absolutely.
Discord league. So until next time, have a good one, everyone.
Peace.